Jonathan Swift once said, "Vision is the art of seeing that is invisible to others." Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerdy Optometrist, a podcast channel for all things eye care. And this is your host, Ukti Vora. Before we dive into this amazing episode, don't forget to follow my channel and catch all of your favorite episodes on your favorite platform. Today, I have a nerd where we were just fighting who is a bigger nerd before getting into this episode. And I'm sure throughout the episode, we might be at a place where we feel we both are in equal nerds. But it's a okay, Eric feels he's going to be a bigger nerd than I am. Well, we'll figure that out.
We'll see.
We'll see. But as you can see, the dynamic, it's a pleasure and honor to welcome this very warm friend. We've been talking about this episode for a very long time, and we're finally able to catch each other for this episode. And I would like to do a formal introduction. I know many of you already know him in this place of eye care. If you are into a startup, if you're working in, cold starting your practice, if you're looking at any consultancy, him and his brand or his company already is established. So though he needs no introduction, it's a pleasure to welcome Erich Mattei, a president and CVO of Akrinos, a practice management consultancy helping eye care professionals start, grow, and transition their private practice, with a mission to make the business of eye care approachable, accessible, and profitable. Eric advises private practices across North America and collaborates with leading companies and startups in the industry. As a writer, speaker, and a thought leader in modern optometry, he brings a real world, people first perspective to his work, focused on innovation, motivation, and integrity. He's passionate about business, behavior, and technology in healthcare. Eric is driven to build sustainable solutions and cultivate collaborative, out of the box partnership in support of independent care. Outside of work, I don't know when he gets the time for it, but I know he does this because I've seen videos of him posting on LinkedIn and inspiring us. He loves road trips with his wife and two kids, cycling, and playing guitar. So, apart from running a full fledged business, he also does all of this. So, well, maybe he's a top notch more nerd than I am. And with that, a very warm welcome, Eric.
Ukti, thank you so much. It's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be here. I know we've been having this conversation about hopping on for a really long time, and I'm super pumped to hop on in here and have this what I hope is an inspired conversation here in Nerdy Optometrists. You know, Ukti, something that I really love that you've done in building Nerdy Optometrists and your community, your content, is that it's so relatable and so real world. So I really hope that to your viewers today that no matter where you are in your practice journey, if private practice is a part of it, that you walk away from this with some inspiration and also some direction as far as perhaps where to go here in your journey. So again, Ukti, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And I think all credit goes to incredible guests who have been so honest and candid on this platform. So huge shout out to you and all the guests who have been ready to come on Nerdy Optometrist and speak their heart out. With that, I want to get started and jump into my favorite question. How did it all start? I want to know, how did you bump into this industry of eye care and optometry?
How did it all start? Well, it was the summer of 2010, and at the time, my wife and at that time one child, he was 6 months old, and I came from a sales background, right? So I studied business and economics, and got into got into sales and found us with a unique opportunity to get into medical sales. So lo and behold, I had the opportunity to bump into eye care, working with what I believe is one of the most amazing, impactful companies in our industry, and that is Alcon Vision Care. So I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to join the Vision Care franchise in the summer of 2010, and took care of the market down here in South Louisiana and coastal Mississippi, from where I'm based in New Orleans, and that was the beginning of it, Ukti. And certainly through the work that I did with Alcon Vision Care and getting to know doctors and their practices in the industry, I became fascinated with the business side of it. And that's kind of what started the process, what eventually unfolded to Akrinos. But it all started way back when, looking for an opportunity, had no clue that I was going to absolutely fall in love with this industry and devote my life to it.
I know. I think this is a great start from interested in business, working in sales, and now starting your own business. So I'm going to unravel each section of your journey. I know you started your business, but before that, you also had a long experience in the industry. You started with Alcon, but I know you've worked with different organizations. How did that experience led to identifying the gap that Akrinos is filling right now? Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question because, in the work I had the opportunity to do was connecting with doctors and working with doctors and their teams and across the spectrum of clinical and retail settings, right? So think of private practice, think of corporate, private equity, hospital system. And it was through those relationships and those observations I made going into the practices that I started to kind of notice a few things that really hit strong with me. The first of these was, what are those elements of the business that separated those that were really succeeding and firing at all cylinders, right? A profitable practice with a good, strong, collaborative, empowering culture compared to those that will struggle to achieve those things and have opportunities in those areas, right? So that was one of those big areas of observations that inspired me on this journey. But I would say the second to follow that was the business milestones, right, Uti, and seeing doctors who were, looking to start their own business, whether it was to cold start a practice or purchase a practice from an established practice in their community, or those doctors that were really wanting to make the most of their peak earnings years. And then ultimately that third phase of the business life cycle, the transition and the exit. And again, it was through coming to have relationships with doctors and collaborating with their practices that I came to realize this massive gap. And it's certainly what inspired me on the journey to what is now Akrinos.
Well, getting into Aquinos, and I love talking about the story behind the name. I don't know, I'm just fascinated with it. Was this your first choice? What does this mean? Did you have other options? Like, tell me a little more story behind the name.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Akrinos, are you ready for this, Ukti?
Yes.
Akrinos is a made-up word.
Okay.
No, people ask me all the time, like, Erich, Akrinos, what does that mean? Where did you come up with that? Right. So but I came to having the opportunity to work with someone very early on in the journey of Akrinos. And, as we were kind of talking through things, he was coming to understand the brand and the vision and everything we set out to do. He's like, look, man, you got to come up with a cool, catchy, short name for this thing, right? And so I found myself in a coffee shop just kind of randomly coming up with the various terms and such. And it hit me, Akrinos. And I remember one of the caveats that he said, look, when you're coming up with this, less is more, the shorter the better, and the domain has to be available,
Yes.
right? So Akrinos was just one of these words that just struck me. So the first thing I did was what? I
Check the
head on
domain.
over to a domain platform and said, I wonder if Akrinos.com is available. And sure enough, Uxie, it was available. But it gets better than that, because what I think is really fascinating is that even though it's a made up word, um, if you actually assess the word, break it down, you come to realize it's of Greek origin. So in Greek, the word krino, Krino, connotates separate or judge. And in Greek, a prefix of a connotates the opposite of something, and the suffix of s connotates the act of doing something. So although akrinos is a made-up word, it would literally translate to the act of integrating or pulling together. And it's fascinating because when you see the work that we do in our solutions and our advisory, that's what we're doing, right? We're putting doctors at the center of that hub of that wheel so that they can achieve their dreams in private practice.
I think that's fascinating, and I'm so glad that you shared. I actually thought I even Googled it. I couldn't come up with something that was more relatable, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ask you this question and be like, what does this mean? And thanks for telling me it's a made-up word, and I'm not going crazy.
You are not going crazy. No, indeed. No, indeed.
But that's how new brands are, and that's how new names are invented now. Aquinos is no more a random word, but something that has a very strong meaning. Thanks to you. Thanks for something that, stuck with you, and now you're creating something beautiful out of this. So you say, so you tell me, what does what are the things that you offer? What are the services? Because we are talking a little bit higher level. Like I know because you've discussed this in depth. But for someone, when you're talking about practice, whether it's a cold start, whether it's someone at the peak, as you had mentioned, or someone at the end of their career where they want to retire and sell off their practice. I know you cater to all of them. Anything practice is your specialty. So break it up for us a little bit.
Well, and I suppose that's a fascinating thing about the approach that we take is that while doctors find themselves in these three different phases of their practice life cycle, it all ties down to basic business principles simply apply to different states of the practice. So what
Mm-hmm.
do I mean by that? I mean, you want to absolutely always ensure you have a good solid foundation for the practice. And that foundation for the practice centers around finance and operations. In the realm of finance, it's understanding of where we are now and what the future outlook is going to look like, and being sure that we've got these milestones lined up, and we're also making these financial decisions in the business that are going to sustain the practice and see this ongoing growth, right? Conversely, on the operational side, it's all these same elements and principles. Well, as a matter of fact, I know when we were having a conversation recently, because when you come on Akrinos Access, we're going to talk about some of the changing faces of operations in modern optometry with technology and such. But as it were, when we look at operations, we understand that we have a team and equipment and infrastructure that's going to support the practice in providing this high level of care to our patients. So whether we're looking at that through the lens of the emerging practice owner who's cold starting their very first business, or perhaps purchasing that legacy practice in their community, it's the same core elements, finance and operations, and applied to this analyze, strategize, implement approach that we take.
Mm-hmm.
Then you step into the peak earnings and growth years for the practice. And these typically occur when someone's typically 10 to 15 years into practice ownership. You can think this would be the time when any sort of startup loans or acquisition loans would have been paid off, right? And that's when doctors find
Yeah.
themselves really in these amazing peak earnings years. And it's also when a lot of these big strategic decisions are taking place. When and how to bring in an associate doctor, when and how to move. Is it appropriate for me to invest in real estate and locate my practice into real estate? I mean, there's just as many financial elements of this as there are operational and infrastructural elements of this. And then we carry it forward into that third phase of the business life cycle, and that is eyeing the exit, which it's fascinating now. Doctors are finding opportunities to start planning for that future earlier in the practice life cycle. And I think that's one of the alarms that was kind of wrong when we saw private equity come through our industry, and that we still have a lot of doctors now who are very well up in age that are looking to exit their practices and don't really have that exit plan. So again, everything we do ties back to these core principles, what we call business foundations, that are the core finance, market fit, and strategic planning elements that are going to position doctors to achieve their goals, whether they're the emerging practice owner, that peak growing practice owner, or that practice owner looking to transition the legacy.
I think this is fantastic how you did break down three different segments just to kind of help people understand where they land and how you can support them. If I was to ask, give me like your top two tips for each segment on how can they maybe make a better decision when they're doing a cold start, or how can they switch into or improve their efficiency during the peak years, or what are the top two things that you would recommend to people who are having an exit strategy? Some tips and tricks that you can share with the audience.
Yeah, fascinating. And wow, to narrow it down to just two. Here we go.
Just to rest, they'll come to you.
So I would say, look, to those of you out there, to those of you listening to this, and you're what we call an emerging practice owner, right? So you're you're up and running, perhaps as little as even a year or two out of school. I mean, we've helped doctors that are 18 months out of school get on their feet launching a cold start. And now to this day, 2 years in, are doing amazing things, right? But for our emerging practice owners out there, whether you're 1 or 2 years out of school, or whether you're 12 or 15 years out of school, as an emerging practice owner, it's really all about understanding your vision, number one. Because it's when you come to see some of these opportunities for the established practices, or lack thereof is because so much of their business may already be constructed in a certain manner, right? So for those out there, that emerging practice owner, the most important thing for you to do first and foremost is get in touch with your MVP, your mission, vision, and purpose. And what's
Mm.
this all into, right? Believe you me, there's more than enough for us to get into in the financial planning and the operational strategy and your team, your HR and operations. But the very first thing is know your mission, vision, purpose. Not your neighbors, not something you're asking an online community, and surely not something you're asking Chat GPT. Chat GPT, what is my mission, vision, purpose? No. You went to optometry school, you're taking care of patients in your community. What is your vision? Because the better you can be in touch with your vision, that actually lays the foundation for getting into more of the structured planning of the practice. For instance, at financial forecast and feasibility analysis, if your vision is to provide medical care to an underserved inner city population, and that's your mission, vision, purpose, that's what you want to do, understand that the financial structure and operational strategic plan for that business is going to be different from if your vision, your mission, vision, purpose is, I want to do a dry eye and aesthetics boutique with a small bespoke optical, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I say to you, it all starts with that mission, vision, purpose. Because once you know that and you own that, now we can get into the fun stuff. Well, if you ask me, the fun stuff, because
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating when the numbers start coming together, right? When you can take someone's mission, vision, purpose they had for that cold start, or for that practice they were going to buy from that retiring doctor, with a vision to enhance the practice and update the practice over time, right? But it starts with that mission, vision, purpose. From there, I would say the second key element for that emerging practice owner who's cold starting or purchasing a practice, you have got to construct a financial pro forma. If you're buying a practice, you need to understand the value of that business, how the thing is cash flowing now, and how it's going to cash flow into the future when you're going to carry debt and have a note to pay off. And then conversely, if you're cold starting that practice, you have to have a clear financial pro forma. Furthermore, again, this is not the kind of stuff you want to just go Chat GPT, because there are a lot of other unique things that will impact
Mm.
the total cost of this. I mean, even just simply locale. I mean, Ukti, right now, we've got practices with doctors that are cold started in markets where their rent is going to be $45 a square foot. Conversely, doctors cold started in markets where their rent is going to be less than $20 a square foot.
Mm.
Vastly different financial structure. And that's not even getting into like build out and all of these other really
Details. Yeah.
big considerations that are very specific, right? They're very one-off. So conceptually, we want to understand the concepts are the same, but it's the application to your unique case that has to be held with the utmost sanctity. It's a lot like patient care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to just do a blanket, everybody does the same thing. That is not the right way to grow a thriving practice, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, okay. So we touched on a couple tips for the emerging practice owners out there. What were
Yeah.
they? Number one, your MVP, your mission, vision, purpose. And number two, a financial pro forma that is suited to you, that's yours, with your vision and your market. Okay, now let's fast forward, and you're an established practice owner. You're 5, 10, 15 years in, really starting to figure things out, and you see the opportunity in your business. The biggest things there for the established practice owner is you got to slow down and you got to focus in on what you want to do,
Mm.
right? Because all too often, and we all, and I know, I think you and I have had conversations off the record for this, and this is one of those things where I always feel like also I mean, this is one of those things where obviously I'm speaking in the mirror, because anyone running any business at any given time, there's a lot of things moving around. The important thing though is to slow down, take a step back, analyze the business. Gut decisions are cool. data-informed gut decisions are better, right? So
Yes.
really, like you don't want to waste time or money
Yeah.
going down paths that are going to prove futile to the bigger picture. Okay. So number one, slow down, take a step back, analyze. In so analyzing, it's imperative that you're looking at the right stats. And what do I mean by analyze? Well, pick an area. I mean, most doctors have a general understanding of kind of where they're seeing things are broke. It's a matter of culture and fit. Hey, I can't get my people steering the boat in the right direction, rowing the boat in the right direction. Okay. Two, it's cash flow. I don't know where my money's going. Help me reel this in. I
Yeah.
mean, those it typically ties down to those two things, right? Um, Here and there, you may find operational bottlenecks, but oftentimes it's a team and understanding your team and finance and understanding the finance that we're going to uncover a lot of these opportunities, right? So in so doing, it's imperative then that you slow down and analyze the right areas, because what we may see as a pain point over here, it actually may be a symptom of an actual breakdown or a gap over here in the business. And that's really where, I know we work collaboratively with a number of other consultants in eye care. Why? Well, when you're in the world of buying and selling practices, it's not uncommon that you're on the phone and emails and stuff. But as it were, we'll sometimes have these conversations regarding what does it mean to work with a consultant? I mean, Akrinos, Eric and my team at Akrinos, or anyone out there, what does it mean? And everyone's going to kind of comment that these are a lot of these key core things that are these building blocks for the business, right? So number one is slow down and assess. We want to make data informed decisions.
Yeah.
Number two, stakeholder centric in your decision making. What do I mean by stakeholder centric? I mean, and I'm sure we're hearing the grandfather clock here, 6 o'clock Central Time. So bear with us as we get through the chimes. But by stakeholder centric, what we're meeting here is that these decisions that are being made in the practice serve our patients,
Hmm.
serve our people, and serve the bottom line of our practice.
Yes.
If we're making decisions in our business that is not mutually benefiting all stakeholders, I'm going to say something's wrong with that.
Hmm.
And when I say something's wrong with that, something's wrong with that in that it may impact profit. May impact our people and collaboration, and it may impact ethics.
Hmm.
So to be making decisions simply for the bottom line of the business, when those decisions may be suboptimal for our staff or for our patients, I don't believe that's the right decision to make in a business.
Or it
Flip
might not
side of the
even be
coin, if we're making,
sustainable.
excuse me, Yukti, what's that?
It might not even be sustainable. It would be a quick fix,
Exactly,
but
exactly.
it's not a
Yeah,
sustainable solution that you're looking for your mission, vision, and purpose.
exactly. Yes, yes. Um, and that's where, look, I mean, let's face it, everybody's in business to make money. I mean, now more than ever, there's a lot of noise out there. And I think when we talk about the world we live in and information and exposure, everybody's running through swiping through the reels and comparing themselves to everyone else. But really, it's important that you honor your business and honor the people that have vested in you, your patients that have made the decision to patronize you, your staff who have made the decision to put their efforts, their sweat into building with you. So stakeholder centric,
Mm-hmm.
huge fan of stakeholder centricity. And look, and I'm thrilled to say that everyone we've ever worked with, it's always been like amazing, the epitome of stakeholder centricity, right? But if you're out there and you're ready to make that step in your established practice, number one, take a step back and assess the right analytics for what you're looking to achieve. And then number two, as you structure your program, look to make a stakeholder centric strategy, something that benefits our patients, our people, our staff, and certainly the practice and the bottom line.
Yeah.
The third area, right?
Yes.
And that's going to be transition. So a couple tips for those that are looking to transition. Start now. Start now. It takes time. And if you don't take my word for it, reach out to some of your peers, get involved in your state association, go to your local society meeting, meet doctors at different phases of their practice life cycle, and you'll come to understanding that it takes time. But furthermore, the reason why I say start early, it takes time, is remember what we said about mission, vision, purpose? That mission, vision, purpose principle applies to all phases of the practice life cycle, right? And you called it
Yeah.
out there, right? For the growth, don't be disillusioned chasing the dollar or chasing rebates or chasing this or that. Honor your mission, vision, purpose in your business. For that legacy practice that's eye in transition, that's how you're going to be able to honor your mission, vision, purpose, is to start that process early. So what does this mean? Get a valuation of that practice. Understand how that thing is cash flowing. Understand the valuation of that thing today. You may be surprised. You may be surprised at how much opportunity there is to enhance the value in your practice, right? So number one, start early, get in touch, understand the finances and the value of your business. Number two, be proactive. What do I mean by be proactive? On the heels of structuring that valuation, take a step back and let's understand, well, okay, if we were to bring in an associate doctor, how could they fit into the practice today? Right? Because oftentimes bringing that associate doctor, we'd like that to be the first step to the ultimate transition, right? Let's bring in that associate doctor, get them on a partner path. And even if the partnership period is brief, you know, seeing practices where the next generation is able to come in kind of under the wing of the legacy generation to see the trajectory that those things are able to take off, as opposed to those practices that are, doctor has held on to their practice for a really, really, really long time. And finally, there's a young person coming in to take it over. Those are amazing matches as well. And they're set up for amazing success. But if the new owner already had established patient base in the practice that knows that new owner, and that staff already knows that new owner or that prospective future owner, again, it sets everyone up for success on
True.
down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps with preparedness and easier transition. I mean, there's no right or wrong, but this just is more seamless based on your experience and I think what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely. And I also like how you said that there's no right or wrong. And I think that's another thing too that, message to the viewers out there. Look, I know where you're at. I see you. I know the degree to which you're overwhelmed, whether I want to start a practice, I want to buy a practice, but I'm scared beyond belief, okay? Or I'm in my established business and I know there's opportunity in my practice, but I kind of feel out of control. And let's face it, with all the insurances and all this other rigmarole surrounding most practices, it's easy to come to lose control, right? And then in that third phase, you've worked your tail off for decades, blood, sweat, and tears, and now you really want to make that exit the right thing at the right time, you know? So really great stuff through and through. Ton of opportunity out there also, Ukti. And it's another thing that I think it's important for everyone to recognize. You know, we'll hop into some of the literature and we'll see, another not a doctor act and this and that, and these vision plans and this and that. There's a lot of things that could have us kind of afraid in vision and eye care and optometry. But the fact is this, y'all, between the growing public health need for vision, medical, and specialty eye care and the growing scope of modern optometry, I strongly believe the future has never been brighter for optometry. Truly. Like when you take a step back and you look at the facts, you know, um,
Yeah, and I feel with the evolving technology and the amount of time we all, in fact, I had read this somewhere that optometry or eye care is one recession proof, and I could be wrong. I'm just quoting something that I've read, is a recession proof industry because whether you have never had glasses at 40, you will need readers, right? At some point, you'll have cataracts, so you'll always need an eye doctor and eye care because it is an essential sense. So I feel the more awareness we have, plus with the use of technology and myopia at its peak and getting towards the worst end, I think having more and more eye doctors, more and more practices that can be more confident in, in growing, in adding more specialty, in transitioning to these new technologies, these new solutions that are coming that we are calling as modern optometry. I think it's definitely going to be a very bright future. Even though it's scary, it's going to be a bright future.
Absolutely, absolutely. But fear not, and also for the viewers out there, Ukti is going to be joining me on Akrinos Access here very soon. So stay tuned. And actually, that's what we're going to be doing, right? Is we're going to be deep diving into some of the technology and AI and some of these things that can perhaps have the less informed, a little afraid. Ukti's going to inform us, help us feel confident and empowered for this surge of technology coming into the space.
Yeah, I am really excited about that. And my goal is to make sure that I can create more awareness, just like you have done right now, in helping break down a few key elements. I think this whole mission, vision, and purpose is my biggest takeaway because it might not even be, I don't have a practice, right? I work within an industry, but still, what is my mission, vision, and purpose? This is such a learning that can be implemented in everything and anything that you do. So I think, and start now, like all the key elements that you shared, just like two, even though I said two, each one of them has been a pearl of advice, which I'm very glad that, you are able to share and help us analyze things, step back, start now, understand what you're working towards, because it's usually now with ChatGPT, it's just easy to type in and it can give you direction, but that might not be you. And it's authenticity is the key. And right now, the place that we are. So I know that Akrinos is one of the piece that you're working on, but you're doing something beyond Akrinos as well in the industry. Can you tell me a little more about your contributions there, or like how are you associated with different organizations?
Yeah, yeah. So outside of Akrinos, I work very closely with the American Optometric Association Center for Independent Practice. As a matter of fact, we've got optometry's meeting coming up this summer, summer 2025, June of 25, up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Head on up there, come to the Akrinos booth, come say hello. But yeah,
Absolutely.
we love to work with the American Optometric Association Center for Independent Practice and UTI. Through that, I get the opportunity to visit some of the optometry schools and teach optometry students about business. So later this week, I'll actually be heading on up to the Kentucky College of Optometry at University of Pikeville. So I can't wait to see y'all. And we're actually going to be doing a workshop all around developing that professional mission, vision, and purpose. And then out of that, I got some other cool, exciting things up the sleeve for the group. But love the work we do with the AOA Center for Independent Practice. Also, I work closely with the American Academy of Optometry. I'm a member of the American Academy of Optometry Foundation President Circle, which is a fundraising arm of the American Academy of Optometry. And particularly, one of the big projects is raising funds to fund the EZEL scholarships. And the EZEL
Yeah.
scholarships are scholarships that are going to optometrists who are pursuing PhDs in vision and health sciences. So this is all about taking optometry into the forefront of research and clinical development in vision and the health sciences. And honored to be a part of the American Academy of Optometry Foundation President Circle. And if you want to get involved, really encourage anyone out there, you got to check out what the Academy does. It's really fascinating stuff. Also, we work closely with Optometry Giving Sight as our global nonprofit of choice. For those of you that may not be familiar with Optometry Giving Sight, they fund projects globally to establish sustainable vision and eye care. And they do that through establishing optometry and opticianry schools globally, as well as clinics globally. So again, when we talk about sustainability of service, making the investments in the infrastructure to actually have these clinics, right? So that these patients
Mm.
can now be served in various parts of the world. I'm also honored to work very closely with Dr. Paul Morman and the team at GRT Summit.
Yeah.
Check it out, grtsummit.com. We do some fun business workshops and CE out at the national parks. So, Ukti, look, this is an amazing industry to be around. And, to your viewers out there, whether you are an optometrist, an optometry student, perhaps industry, or maybe someone outside of eye care altogether, vision and eye care is a fascinating industry to be around. And given this increasing demand for care across patient populations and the expanding scope of modern optometric care, there's never been a better time for doctors to get into private practice.
I love that. And as you all rightly saw that the kind or the amount of work Eric does in the industry, one thing that I want definitely people to take out of this episode is to follow him on LinkedIn and check out Akrinos. I think it's definitely going to be very, very informative and helpful. And he's a person you always want in your LinkedIn connection for sure to know what's happening, what's new. Even even if you're not a person who's out there, just follow him and he'll fill you in as well. That's how I keep updated to all the amazing things that are happening in the industry. So Eric, we just briefly touched initially that you had started with Alcon, you've worked in the industry, you started your journey as an entrepreneur. We're talking a lot about business, but with business comes challenges or future opportunities. So I want to talk about your challenges. How did you come up? How were you able to, overcome those challenges? And if you can share something about your journey, because you did have a set job and you decided to drop everything and start your own business. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. You know, and I suppose interestingly enough, it ties back to what we were talking about earlier, mission, vision, and purpose. And I think that's where it's important to understand, what do you want to do? There is no right or wrong, good or bad, this or that in any of this journey. I mean, any of this professional journey that any of us are on is truly a matter of what kind of impacts do we want to have in serving others, you know? To speak of the challenges, oh my gosh, Uzi.
We
if
can do
there
a part two.
if there were a nickel for every time, I didn't think I had what it took. The voices in the head, and we all have it. I mean, to our viewers out there, to our listeners, you ever hear of imposter syndrome? I
Yes.
mean, I'm sure I can sense everyone's like shaking their heads, like hell yeah, it's human, man. It's all part of it, right? But that's where I think, see, the imposter syndrome kind of creeps in the face of in the face of uncertainty, right? So consider this, UT, in the face of uncertainty, we fall in one of two categories. We kind of gravitate to fear, or we sense that there may be opportunity.
Mm.
What's an example? Do you remember for like millennia, humans thought that the earth was flat,
Yes.
right? We
Yes.
can't see anything over the horizon. So there were people that had everyone convinced the earth is flat, man. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go over there.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, right? And it wasn't. And then you had these brave souls, or whoever, I don't know, or maybe they were just thrown off course. They weren't planning to go that far. But it wasn't until that. But truly, I mean, then you have these expeditionists that are like, ah, have no fear. There's opportunity out there.
Yeah.
If you start to kind of peel this back, you kind of think, I mean, watch a child learn how to walk.
Mm.
Like it's some of these really basic things that like if we just kind of like apply that in business and in entrepreneurship, because yeah, when you take that leap, when you take that step, for me, it was venturing into entrepreneurship from an amazing company with many opportunities, right? And was there uncertainty? Absolutely was there uncertainty. But then you take a step back and you start to realize, well, you know what? The reason for the uncertainty or the reason for the fear is because of the uncertainty. So the more things that we can start to identify, quantify, analyze, then we can start to see a picture starting to take shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're starting to answer more of these questions. And as we're
Yeah.
answering more of the questions, then we make data-informed decisions. Then we make data-informed decisions, that fear meter goes through the floor, right? It's like taking care of a patient. It's like
Mm-hmm.
taking care of a patient. And we can think of any patient case, the likes of which, OMG, what's going on? This is crazy. I, as an optometrist, by the way, I'm not an optometrist, but I'm thinking from a listener out there, you're thinking, I, as an optometrist, I'm seeing something I've never been exposed to. This is really scary. But then you have your technician take some photos, maybe take some measurements, and then you take a moment to digest the facts and you realize, well, wait up, it's not as bad as I thought it was
Yeah.
because now I got the measures. So, you know, again, Ukti, if I had a nickel for every challenge, if I had a nickel for the times where the voices are like, that little bit of negativity, right? Um, if I had a nickel for all those episodes, I'd have a lot of money in a piggy bank. I'll say that. But the fact is this, really, it's when you then take a step back and you realize, well, okay, why are we feeling this way? You realize it always ties back to there's something that's uncertain. Okay. So that's number one regarding the challenges. Take a step back, assess the situation. Number two is be proactive,
Mhm.
right? We can sit on the sidelines until the time that the sun sets for the last time.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, we could sit around and wait for the phone call to come through,
Hmm.
or we can make something of it,
Yeah.
you know?
Just pick up a
And
call. Just pick up a phone and make a call instead of waiting for it.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, and that's where I think it ties back to. So we're talking about there's uncertainty. So understand whenever the fear starts to set in or the challenges that will start to maybe have the second guessing, and whether you're the emerging practice owner starting or buying a practice, you're the growing practice owner feeling you're out of control in your practice, or you're the legacy practice owner. You're like, oh crap, man, I'm ready to retire. Somebody please come take this off my hands. Okay, understand those emotions. The fear sparks the emotions, and then it starts like this vicious cycle. Okay,
Mm.
but that's where what caused this? The uncertainty.
Hmm.
So let's be proactive to seek out the facts that can provide us some level of certainty about this case. Just like the patient. Oh my gosh, I've
Yeah.
never seen this in my life. Okay, let's sit him in the chair. Let's get some measurements. Let's get some photos. Let's get some level of certainty. Then let's be proactive because we don't want to look at this and just be like, okay, well, maybe I'll go bury my head in the sand and it'll go away. Ostriches do that. Do they really do that? I can't get over that. It's weird.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so
Birds that bury their heads in the sand, right?
yeah.
Um, and then I suppose the third piece is controllables,
Hmm. Yeah.
controllables and uncontrollables. And I think for many of us, you find yourself at times losing sleep over the uncontrollables. You're one person, you've got your skill set. Stay committed to your mission, vision, purpose. Take that amazing skill set you've been blessed with, assess the facts. If this is your mission, vision, purpose, let's assess the facts of this field we're playing on to manifest, right? To bring that stuff out and bring it to reality. As we start assessing more of the facts, we're answering more questions. We're checking more boxes. As we're checking more boxes, oh my gosh, we're not as afraid because now we're starting to get more and more answers to things.
Yeah.
Then with those checked boxes, let's be proactive in taking that and cooking up that gumbo or them red beans and rice. It's Monday in New Orleans, so it's red beans and rice, right? And then let's focus on the controllables. What can you control?
Hmm.
If anything that can happen outside of your control, it can and perhaps will happen at some time or another. But stay
True.
committed to what you control, and that's it. That's
That
it.
that's true. I've recently read this and I have it poster up in my office. It says everything is figure outable, and I'm trying to stick by that mantra.
I love that. Everything is figure outable. I love that, Ukti.
So anytime I feel stressed, that's the way. And it's like it has an image of of like a cartoon chilling, and it's like or sipping coffee, and it's like, you know what, everything is figure outable. So
Everything is figure
anything,
outable.
anytime.
That's awesome.
So Eric, we did talk a lot about your journey, how we can support different people. But now it's time for my game segment, which is a rapid fire. It's a fun segment. All I want to do is ask you certain questions, learn a little more about you, and it's rapid fire, so your answers have to be rapid. You have to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, and that's pretty much it, just for us to know you a little better.
Let's do it.
All right. My first question, your favorite destination?
Outside.
Outside, but do you have your favorite location or anything outside?
I don't know. I like being outside pretty much wherever I am. Look, we can be in New York. I was in New York a few weeks ago for Loft. I love being outside, go for a walk.
Okay. All right. A hobby or something that you do during your downtime. I know cycling and playing guitar, but anything other than that.
So, love to have a meal as a family every
Ah,
evening. And that's something that we, even as our kids are growing up and they're now teenagers, to have all of us together, whether it's an early dinner at 6:30 or a late dinner like 8:45, we try to get all four of us together for dinner every day.
oh, that's wonderful. One thing that people don't know about you.
Okay, so here's something kind of cool. Back in my cycling days, and I ride these days. So now you've come to know me and my cycling very casually, okay? But there was a time and place where it was a huge part of my life. And I remember training up in North Georgia and touching 60 miles an hour on a downhill on my bike.
Oh
And it
my.
was pretty outrageous. And I did it
Oh,
all at once. And then that's when I realized I was not cut out for pro cycling because the pro cyclists will do these downhills screaming down 60, 70 miles an hour
oh
like
my
that.
God. Oh my God.
So
Oh
how
my.
was that? How was that? Not many people know that about me.
Yeah, I know you are into cycling, but this is insane. Man, this
It
is
was insane. Again, past life, many, many moons ago.
but yeah, that's something I didn't know about you, and I'm sure many of people who are close to you in the industry does not know about it. So this is definitely a fun fact. Your favorite cuisine or food that you like?
New Orleans, Cajun Creole. It's in my heart, it's in my blood. And if ever you're coming down here, if anybody's ever down here in New Orleans, be sure to hit me up for a good recommendation. Or who knows, maybe I'll have you over at the house and cook for you.
Ah, lovely. Okay. If you could interview any guest, dead or alive, who would that be, and what would your question be?
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing question. A long list of people, but I think it'd be fascinating to interview Jerry Garcia. He's
Okay.
one of the co-founders of the Grateful Dead, and the Grateful Dead instrumental in not only music, Americana music, but I mean culture the world over. And again, what they did musically, what they did culturally has impacted so many people all over the world. So I think I would want to ask them, like, when did you start to see things turn where it went from you
Mhm.
guys being kind of on the fringe to where all of a sudden you realize like you were starting a movement and a cultural shift that just impacted so many people.
Ah, that's wonderful. If there was one advice you would give to your younger self, what would that be?
What are you waiting for?
Love that. If we were to write an autobiography about your journey, what would you like the title to be?
Oh, wow. Bound to cover a little more ground.
Ah, love that. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. That
it's
was a rapid fire. I definitely know a little more about you. I'm going to reach out to you next time I'm in New Orleans for sure. I'm going to take you up on the offer of you cooking a meal for me. And if you're in California, I'll do the same. So let's make sure we make that happen. I definitely know a little more facts about you. Before I let you go, I think this has been a fantastic episode. For all the listeners, I'll be dropping his LinkedIn profile as well as link to Akrinos. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to them. Before I let you go, Eric, one final takeaway message for all my listeners.
final takeaway. Look, y'all, be proactive and assertive as you're going across this career journey, no matter where you are, early in your optometry career, establishing your career, eyeing your exit. Be proactive and confident and assertive in all things that you're going to pursue, and the sky's going to be the limit.
Love that. With that, thank you so much once again for your time, and I'll see you soon on your channel. So, with that, a very warm welcome again to the Nerdy Optometrist family, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, UT.